Right, we got Avatar: The Last Airbender review. It just came out today, so this should be interesting.
And the world might never recover. The world needs the Avatar.
Already watching this review.
What's up, everybody? My name is Joshua
What's up,
and this is my review of Netflix's live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender. First thing I want to say up front is you should go into the show knowing that it's not so much a straight adaptation of the original Last Airbender animated series, but rather a dramatic reimagining. I think it works not because it tries to recreate the magic of the original, that would be impossible, but because it focuses on showcasing a cast of compelling characters and adding new material that's only alluded to in the original series, and it adds depth and enriches the material. Granted, this interpretation has its fair share of flaws, but it's a far cry from M. Night Shyamalan's disastrous 2010 spin on young hero Aang's mission to master fire, water, and earth and defeat the villainous Fire Lord.
Yeah, that was awful.
Those flaws include, but are not limited to, unconvincing special effects, clunky moments of exposition, and a rush to cover so much story in just 8 episodes. But even all that does not outweigh everything this Last Airbender gets right. Above all else, it has its heart in the right place. And for Team Avatar, that's what matters most.
Not really. Let's see. Things are looking appa.
How Aang became the last Airbender and the way that trauma shapes his future is always in focus in this new series, no matter how wild and magical the story gets. The story centers on this weird, bald person who is accidentally frozen in time for a century and awakens to find his people have been wiped out and the Fire Nation is waging a war on the world. It is a captivating premise that puts the weight of the world on Aang's shoulders and forces him to challenge the very idea of what being the Avatar means. I liked how this show put less emphasis on how the Avatar is the one person in the world who can control all 4 elements, you know, like the powers, and instead it focuses on how the Avatar is meant to be a peacemaker, a savior, and a miracle worker whose job it is to keep the world's 4 nations existing in harmony. And how even though
both of those things should have been covered.
Aang leads with kindness and still does his best. And boy does Aang get put through the ringer. It's one thing to hear about the genocidal Fire Nation wiping a whole society off the map, but to see it dramatized Order 66 style not only shows how the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender fell into such a hopeless state, but helps us understand what exactly and who exactly Aang has lost. It's all part of a world that is lovingly brought to life from its grand cities down to its quirky hybrid animals.
Oh, we didn't end up playing.
What do you need?
I'm gonna end up refining your points there. We could probably play today.
In making the transition to live action, much of the silliness and whimsy of the original are traded for a tone that's more grounded, more mature, and more violent. But it's not just done for edginess' sake. The slightly darker vibe works in service of the story because it makes Aang's unwavering compassion and anti-war philosophy shine all the brighter. As the core trio of the show, Aang, Katara, and Sokka, played respectively by Gordon Cormier, Ki Win-teo, and Ian Owsley, make for a solid group of young actors who faithfully capture the spirit of Team Avatar. Gordon Cormier looks and acts like the Blue Fairy turned a 2D sketch of Aang into a real boy. It's uncanny. And let me say, it is impressive for a 12-year-old actor to be the lead of a major show like this. And he does it well by evoking the joy and playfulness of Aang while also thoughtfully dealing with the immense amount of responsibility no one of any age should have to bear, let alone a literal child who should be attending middle school and eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Sokka is by far the funniest character, which is right on the money, and his humor goes a long way to lighten the mood and voice the thoughts of the audience when weird stuff happens, as it often does in this world. His sister, Katara, is more hit and miss. Sometimes she's really moving and inspiring as the beating heart of the team, and at other times the performance falls a bit flat, for me at least. Still, watching these 3 characters form bonds of friendship and learn to work together as a team makes for some of the show's most enjoyable moments.
Right. Anyone of any age can eat PBJ. Absolutely.
So as the
I love
Avatar,
PBJ.
Aang learns to command the elements with tremendous power, but it's his kind heart that gives him his strength. And it's to Cormier's credit that he makes Aang impossible not to root for. It's of special note how well the choreography captures Aang's unique way of moving, like how he excitedly bounces around and casually flutters up into the sky on a whim like an airbender would. He has a fun and cool combat style too, where he likes to spin and flip on a breeze to counter his opponent, and then he uses his surroundings to his advantage, sort of like a pint-sized Jackie Chan, but who can fly. It is worth noting though, that while all the
I didn't play Duel Links last night.
Stunning, it is not always convincing that the characters are actually moving around in them. The characters who gain the most from this adaptation's changes are the Fire Nation's Prince Zuko and his uncle, General Iroh, who are on a mission to hunt down the Avatar. Zuko is played by Dallas Liu with just enough entitlement and rage to mask the pain underneath, while Paul Sun-Hung Lee is absolutely sublime as the wise, humorous, yet no less emotionally scarred Uncle Iroh. Their bond as pseudo—
What's weird is they're describing the show,
the
actual show
is the new scenes that actually show the fiery tragedies that form that bond. Anyone familiar with the source material knows that Zuko and Iroh have a great storyline ahead of them.
Yeah.
So it's impressive that this retelling manages to add new layers that make it even more nuanced and emotionally powerful. It totally made me cry. Spending more time with the Fire Nation characters means we see a surprising amount of big bad evil guy, Fire Lord Ozai. It's a risky decision because seeing so little of Ozai until the end of the original series is part of what made that character work so well. Kind of like if Jaws could shoot fireballs out of his mouth. But it all works to excellent effect in this show. And not just because original series veteran Daniel Day Kim delivers a steely, intimidating—
There's no cutscene where he learns water, earth, and fire.
Ozai is—
and you're on episode 5, learned off screen.
As he is in toughening
that makes sense.
Zuko and daughter Azula, even if it means playing them against each other to cause an unfathomable amount of pain and daddy issues. Elizabeth Yu crushes it as Azula with an introduction so cruel and sadistic, it's actually kind of impressive. And she only grows more unhinged from there. All that made me glad her introduction was not saved for the second season.
Have you got a plan yet?
The plan is to go in and capture the Avatar once and for all.
So no plan?
I'm working on it, Uncle.
If you, like me, were disappointed with the Airbender movie and how it depicted bending, then rest easy knowing that this show nails it.
I haven't seen it, no.
It looks and sounds incredible, especially with how each element is accented by a different martial arts style. Forget how it took 6 earthbenders to throw a single slow-moving rock in the Shyamalan movie. No, these earthbenders raise up pillars from the ground and strike with thunderous impact. Firebending is explosive and dazzling, like watching someone pop off with Liu Kang in a Mortal Kombat.
Well, that's because that's how it's supposed to be.
Channels tornadoes and gales that blast enemies away. Airbending is OP, by the way. Unfortunately, waterbending isn't quite as well done. The liquid often looks plasticky, and when it strikes an opponent, it feels like a playful splash. Like, come on, it should be like getting punched by a fire hose. Aside from that wet blanket, the bending is on point, and it makes every fight exciting, and there's always some cool spin on it that really makes it pop. Now, if
I'm starting to think this guy didn't watch the original show.
To master all 4 elements and face Ozai is a long one. That spanned 3 seasons with 20 episodes, each 23 minutes long. This show has to cover the same ground in 8 episodes that are an hour long each. Significant cuts are made, mostly in favor of focusing squarely on Team Avatar's main quest to reach and defend the Northern Water Tribe from the invading Fire Nation forces, and the results are mixed. About half the episodes feel like
Dead Island 2's on Game Pass. I'm not worried about it. That game looks bad.
On one hand, there's some admirable condensing in the writing, stitching together thematically complementary elements from multiple episodes of the cartoon, while also squeezing in some delightful fan service.
Papa, yip yip!
But this condensing comes at the expense of breathing room for all those characters and events. The result is
it was bad.
Pacing,
I watched Pud play the whole game.
Sharp turns out of nowhere, and a general sense of
and Pud just said it's bad. She played the whole game. I watched her play. It was bad.
Truly amazing stuff. Avatar
it's not terrible, but it wasn't great.
Brilliantly crafted characters, each
with like a math game
and philosophy on life, and the show is at its best when it slows down to explore that. Now, there's plenty of things to enjoy in this show, and there are probably just as many things you can nitpick about. As far as things I liked, it's things like how the first time we see Zuko's black metal warship, it's treated with the same immense terror and daunting music cue as Star Wars gives a Star Destroyer. Everything from the costuming and makeup to
they did very good on
excellent attention to detail. They really bring the
on all the cosmetics.
And I'll reiterate that all of the new material is the highlight and kept me on my toes, made the show feel unpredictable, even though I've already seen it a bunch of times. And oh man,
have you?
I do not want to spoil it, but Uncle Iroh has this little moment with a nameless earthbender character, and it was just so intense and revealing and really captured what it's like being on different sides of this world war. It was just so good. But there are also many quibbles to be had, like how we're often reminded that the Avatar needs to keep a low profile, and yet, when the heroes travel to a big city, they immediately take off their disguises and walk around in bright, primary colored clothing that practically screams their true identities. As a fan of the original show, I couldn't help but notice that the Avatar's ability to commune with past avatars gets a new wrinkle that changes how the supercharged Avatar state works. And I really love that moment. It really shows you the power of an Avatar, and it shows how the Avatar state is a unique power to this world, not like all the other powers you see in other shows. But the change seems to only have been designed for that one moment, and later on, the characters explain why they can't do it anymore, and I just wish they continued to use it and do cool new stuff with it rather than just do it once. But maybe I'm being greedy because that first moment with it was just so cool. Oh, and here's the sticking point. Animal pals Appa and Momo are present, and Momo in particular looks adorably lifelike, but they don't appear enough to feel like they're actual characters rather than just loyal pets, which means, unfortunately, Appa serves as just a fuzzy flying taxi. And one last thing, if there's one aspect of this world that feels undercooked,
he's gonna give it like a 9, an 8 or a 9. Watch.
Devoted to how the spirit world works.
He's talking so highly about it.
But it's not enough to prepare
This came out today.
for how important it becomes later on. So there's a haze of confusion when all the glowy things start happening.
I'm the Avatar, and I'm gonna save them.
He's gonna give it an 8 or a 9. It came out today.
My friends.
All that said, my final thoughts are, it goes without saying that Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the greatest animated series ever made. So a second attempt at a live-action adaptation was never going to come without high expectations and lots of nitpicking at the finer details. But over the course of its 8 episodes, those kinds of criticisms, while valid, tend to melt away when the new Avatar hits its stride. The show does not live up to the original in every way possible, but as far as I'm concerned, it is still a worthy adaptation for adding a new textured richness to the lore. Above all else, the people who made this show clearly have a reverence for the source material. And
Yeah,
it's great how this show
it's a TV show.
captures the spirit
It went on
of the
forever.
original while forging its
I
own
hope they have a
For
reference.
as different as the two series may be, Netflix's keeps the flawed, complicated, lovable characters at the forefront, showcasing what makes them great and adding new layers of depth along the way.
Give it a 7. Okay, I might have took too much
That's
credit.
all from me. When you get a chance
7.
to watch it yourself,
So it's just
let me know
good.
what you think down in the comments.
Okay, I'll
And
have
be sure
to-
check out our
I'll check it
other
out.
reviews of things you might like. Right
I'll check it out.
on
But
IGN.
I'll tell you what episode I stop at if I end up watching it and I absolutely can't stand it because it's not like the original. I know it's not going to be exactly like the original, but if I watch it and I'm like, nope, not going to do it, I'll tell you what episode I stop at. But yeah, that was the last Airbender review. They gave it a 7. So it's just good. It's just good.